Welcome back to the Black Girl Iowa podcast. I'm your host, Emily, and today we're going to have a candid conversation about what it means when life throws you a curveball and how we process and heal from divorce. For so many women, divorce is more than the end of a relationship. It can feel like the unraveling of your identity, security, and even your community. But it can also be the beginning of something new, a journey of self discovery, resilience, rebuilding your future on your own terms. Today, I welcome my guest, Lya Williams, who has experienced this like me firsthand. Through her story, she reminds us that healing is not a straight line, but a process that involves reflection, courage, and learning to trust yourself again. In our conversation, she'll open up about the challenges she's faced, the ways she's found strength, and the lessons she carries with her as she moves forward. Whether you're going through a divorce yourself or supporting someone you love, or simply want to hear from one woman and how she turned heartbreak into growth, this episode is definitely for you. Together, we'll definitely explore what it means to honor your plan, embrace your healing, and step boldly into the next chapter. So, ladies, gentlemen, and non binary friends, I'd like to welcome Lya Williams to the show. Lya, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. We're gonna
Yes.
see how this is gonna turn out.
Yes, you know what? I think this is going to be really good because all of my interviews are usually, you know, more centered around people, what they're doing in the community, their organizations, their causes, all of these things. And I think me and you had a conversation just about life after divorce. It's a conversation that I've wanted to have, but I feel like there's more to say because everyone's divorce story is different.
Mhm.
And I feel like for us specifically, being Black women divorced and living in Iowa,
Phew,
that is a whole thing. You know what I
thing.
mean? So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you instead of going through the whole what brought you to Iowa and stuff like that. No, let's just go ahead and
You don't wanna know my backstory? Oh my gosh. Okay.
you know what? You're right. I met Lya when we did the episode of Podcast Cousins over the summer. And you are originally from North Carolina. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what brought you to Iowa?
Sure. So the short story is went to college, got my degree in agricultural and biosystems engineering from the North Carolina A&T State University. The young folks call it NCAT, but it's A&T for those of us that are alumni in the 90s and maybe still like the early 2000s. From there, I got a job with USDA and RCS, and I worked as an agriculture engineer. Well, as you can imagine, I experienced some kind of like conflicts being a Black woman in this field that is predominantly white males. And so I started seeking, like, where else could I go? And my mentor sought out and got me here to Iowa.
Hmm.
And at that time, like most folks, I thought it was Des Moines. I had no idea how to pronounce it. And then when I got here, I was like, what did I do? Like, I'm going from working in Maryland. I'm from North Carolina. I'm from the East Coast. The concepts of stuff is different. I got a different culture, and I get here to the Midwest and land, and I was like, okay, how are we
Mm,
going to pivot here? So I accepted a position here as a civil engineer, and I worked downtown in the federal building, and I was designing dams around the state of Iowa
wow.
and reviewing them as they come in. And so from there, the quick story is I got married eventually. I
Hmm.
did have a child later in life. So I was called that geriatric pregnancy, and I chose to step back because the birth of my son, it was worth it to take care of him and not have to juggle. Because at that time they had me in a tumwa. Don't know if
Mm.
you've been to a tumwa. So Des
Hmm.
Moines very much, it's for Black people, but a tumwa, you know, I know I have to be careful how I phrase that, but
Hmm.
that is an area of the state that I was like, "Okay, something has to give." So the birth of my son was a blessing that brought me back here, and I got
Hmm.
to get more involved in my community by seeing what was happening in education and
Hmm.
because he's going to school. So
Yeah.
that's the short story.
Yeah. And, I lived in Fairfield for a year after
Oh,
college.
yes. Yes.
So I know Wetumpka very well. And it's a Tumwa. And we even knew
Yes.
that growing up. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna leave it at that. So you're here in Iowa, being a civil engineer, working and doing all those great things. You get married. You got married here, right?
Well, no.
Okay.
They're both from North Carolina, so we got
Okay.
married back in my city, Winston-Salem, so that our family could travel up to, having, older parents and stuff, and, very much I have a big, large family, so
Mhm.
we chose to do it there.
Mhm.
So, yep,
Yep.
married
Okay.
there, but divorced here.
Yes, yes. So, how long now have you been divorced?
Um, the official signage would have been July of 2024.
Okay. Okay.
Because in Iowa, you go 90 days,
Mhm.
and oddly in North Carolina, you have to go through a whole year separation. But here
Wow.
in Iowa, you only have 90 days, especially if it's uncontested. And so that was different. So yeah, so legally and officially, July of 2024.
Yeah. And it's really interesting how the states do things differently because you mentioned here in Iowa it's 90 days. So, I initially asked for my divorce March of 2022. I filed in June of 2022, and I signed the paperwork on October 28th, 2022. So everything
Okay.
was done within a very, very short time period, which I was very, very happy for. But I think something that people don't really talk about in divorce is how, regardless of how long you were with that person, you do kind of go through a little bit of an identity crisis. And so I know I went through one, and it took me probably like a year to kind of be like, "Oh, wait, I get to be my own person." So, when you first went through your divorce, what part of your identity felt the most shaken? And how did you reclaim that piece of who you were outside of your relationship?
Now, I'm a storyteller. So for me, the identity was more shook because this is the very thing I didn't want to happen. My parents were married, and their divorce created me in this, like, if when I do choose to be with that person, I want this forever. I want that title. I want to know when I walk in rooms that I'm Mrs. So and so. And I realize now that how much my identity was never really there. Like, you're still your own person,
Mhm,
because when you get married, you're trying to take two individuals, but you're really taking four, because however you grew up by your parents and their standards and things they had, you're marrying this person's parents and standards, right?
mhm,
It was hard because it was like, I have a child too. So then that concept of, as a Black woman, we already get so criticized so much. And so for me, I was like, now great, I get to be the single Black mom, right? So now I
mhm,
have another stereotype that I gotta navigate through, when in reality, a lot of people don't really know. Like, the less you say, the less people know. A lot of
mhm,
people did not know. So people, when they hear this, it may be news to them for the first time, because it's not like I went on social media and need to blast this, right?
mhm,
Because, privately, I still have to respect the person I'm no longer with, and I
mhm.
also have a child in the middle of this. So I have to navigate differently. I think, like with you, there's not a kid involved, and so it's such a different dynamic. It's like, to me, like, you signed your paper and that was it. For me, I'm still having to have communication and navigate things. So where we didn't communicate that well as a married individual, now I have to put in these boundaries. I have to be like, here's where I'm at. And so,
Yeah,
you know,
the boundaries is wild too. It was really hard when I went through my separation and my divorce because, um, the boundaries weren't, for me, they were crystal. For him, they were not. I was staying with my parents, and there was also the fact that, like you said, we didn't have children, but he had been in my nephews' lives since they were babies.
mm,
And he was wanting to continue to have a relationship with my nephews. And ultimately, I didn't want to take a male role model away from my nephews either. And then we were together for 17 years. We were married for 11. So he had also developed a relationship with my parents. And my parents were like, well, we should probably still maintain a relationship with him, even though you guys aren't together, which was complicated. And so I'm trying to be on my healing journey, and I'm trying to really work things out. But I would come home to my parents' house and the boys are with your ex, or he's going to be stopping by in 20 minutes. So, and it's saying that like out loud now, it's like, for as much as I wanted it to be a clean break, it wasn't initially because of those other relationships and connections that had been bonded,
Right.
because I had been with him since I was 19. And for myself, because I had been with him since I was a teenager, my
Mhm.
identity, excuse my language, was all fucked up because
Well, I mean, almost 20, that's
yeah.
not who you were at 19 that you are
No.
now. And you
No,
go through so
no.
many different stages
Yeah.
of figuring that out. So
Mhm.
even while you're saying the identity thing, the biggest thing for me was the identity of becoming a mom. Like,
Mhm.
'cause you went through all these hormone imbalances, you birthed a baby, and then when okay, Leah the engineer is now Leah the mom.
Mhm.
I wasn't Leah the engineer and a mom. I was no longer in my career. So that kind of identity, especially being in other mom groups, was kind of like it was different.
Mhm.
Um, Back to like how you said in the episode earlier about, and being a black woman. So like here's another space I'm trying to navigate because there's not a lot of black women I knew
Yeah.
till you and I had talked who openly will talk about
Mhm.
divorce and the things that go along with it. And it's been really hard to find a platform or
Mhm.
somewhere to, discuss that. And when you don't have a clean break, that makes it very gray.
Very.
You are trying to navigate how do I communicate in a way that one says that these are still my boundaries no matter what. And you don't get to come in and do the same things that was maybe familiar to you because now I didn't get my name back because I've already established myself in my married name. So that was one thing. And then also back to the identity thing. I didn't want my son and I, ironically, I didn't want him to have a different last name than mine
Mhm.
either, right?
Yeah.
But the ultimate thing is like I look at people's hands sometimes like, man, like they got their wedding band on and you can see it flashing. So it's like all that symbology of a
Mhm.
reminder.
Mhm.
But the ultimate thing for me was I wanted to be happy. And quite
Mhm.
honestly, when someone tells you they're no longer happy, I'm one of those people like, go be happy.
Yep, go
Do
figure it
what you
out.
need to do,
Mhm.
but don't come and rain on my joy because you're not able to figure it out for yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and you brought up something that, and again, my interviews, they never go always off the questions, and I told you this was gonna happen. You just brought something up really, really important about how we're Black women that are willing and ready to talk about our divorces. And I think that that's incredibly important because I know very few Black women that have been divorced.
Mm,
And the few that I do know, it's a very personal thing, and I would never wanna force someone to talk about their divorce or anything like that, but I know for me, it helps me process and it helps me understand and know that, like, what I essentially decided to do, it's okay to choose your own happiness, and that's exactly why I wanted to get divorced. Me and my ex-husband, we were no longer compatible. We did not agree on anything, and he turned into this person that I didn't really recognize, but also I could very well see that there was a certain level of discontent that I was never gonna be able to fix for him. And I feel like not wanting to talk about it, being a Black woman, also in that is that veil of, "Well, you just went through something, you're fine, you're gonna overcome it," and all of the stuff. It's
mhm.
just
You
like,
just
"No,
gonna pray
wait,
about
you just
just
Imma just pray about it and be fine." No! I wanna scream, I wanna shout, I wanna cry. Like, I see people all super, like, happy in their
you be
relationships,
sitting there
like,
thinking like, well, what's the secret that they have? Think
seriously.
the biggest thing that helped me the most, again, I have black women in my family. And when they knew about it, the ones that are close to me, immediately it was always check, how are you doing? Are you okay? And the biggest advice I have for my cousin, I won't call her out, but she said, you know what? You need to keep getting up and getting dressed. She says, because now Jesus is your husband. Sounds crazy, but in a way. But she was saying, you get when you put makeup on, she said, that is now a death. That door has been closed, and you have to look at it that way. And when she hit me with that advice, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this makeup on for me because it's about me now and
Yes.
reestablishing it. But like I had mentioned, I already had to go through, the mom and getting through that, which by the way, that needs to be a subject talked about how your body goes through those things.
Yeah.
But now this new identity, but back to like you mentioning being 19, Leah in her teens, like I could have shrugged this off, I could have moved on, whatever. And then you get in your 30s, like your position on things change, you're allowed to do that. I used to think, no, you had to be cut and dry because I'm a black and white thinker,
Mhm.
it should be this way and not that way. But now, as I'm even, I'm proud to say, as I enter into almost my 50 year, that now I realize how much that stuff doesn't matter. It really is about at the essence of when I wake up, am I happy with me?
Mhm.
Am I happy with the relationships I have around me?
Mhm.
And what am I going to feed? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're feeling like it's not joy. And I often look at, because I mentor young women,
Mhm.
and I can't be a hypocrite and be out here fighting and advocating all these things, and then I'm not doing it for myself and my household. So
Mm.
when I talk to those I mentor, like, hey, here's a conversation that you need to have. These are the things you should be looking at. Are you getting green flags as you're entering into relationships? Are you seeing red flags? Because the very things that you ignore for the sake of saying, hey, I want to be in this situation, is the
Mm.
very things that you'll find pull you apart. But you got to figure that out, right? You got to know what you can or cannot do. Not when you want to share with the girlfriend, they're like, couldn't be me. And it's like, but you're tolerating this. So
Right.
where is the happy medium? So having that support system, having those people to bounce stuff off. But again, like on the airways, very few conversations about it online. Very
Mhm.
few conversations of me being able to connect and
Mhm.
say, hey, Emily, like, girl, what did you do to get through
Yeah.
this?
Right.
Did journaling help you? Did walking help you? Like, what prayers did you pray? Like, how did you eventually get through it? Because you do have to go through these seasons. You got to go through. I think I started looking up on the internet where it talks about the different seasons of emotions
Mhm.
and processing. Because at the end of the day, you do need to be healed so that you're not entering into something else later on.
Right.
Uh, in that brokenness, if you're
Yeah.
broken.
Yeah.
Let me make sure my disclaimer.
That really leads into my next question about overcoming those emotional hurdles. I think what some people don't really realize is you do not wake up one day and say, I want to get a divorce. It's a process. It's
What? You didn't do that? Girl.
girl, man, listen, as much as I want to as I want to be like, what? I was ready to cut it off, so I did. No, did not happen that way. And just like what we had kind of already talked about, you start to realize that the person you were is not who you are now. And the things you put up with back then, you're like, wait, this is actually wrong and I deserve better. My story is it took me 2 years to finally
Mm.
say, this is not working anymore for me. And some of those emotional hurdles that I definitely went through were things that ultimately supported my decision. So when you think back to your process, what practices or what are some things that helped you recognize those flags, see what those hurdles were, and eventually overcome them to get to your healing process?
Well, the biggest thing is when, there's a conflict that comes up.
Hmm.
And I had never heard the term gaslighting, right? Because I used to be sitting here thinking, like, I know this is what was said, and then I'm in this discussion and being told that's not what was said. And to be an intelligent Black woman, right? I'm claiming that. To be intelligent and emotionally intelligent and then
Mm,
having to hear that, and you're like, if I gotta find the conversation we had here to say that or get stuck in the I can't go and talk about the past because the argument is meant to be won, when I realized I no longer wanted to argue. Like, I'm one of those people, I journal, so I start there. And in journaling, I used to do like word of the year, and I would write down what my reflective goals is like I within myself because I always feel like if you're not trying to improve yourself, then you're just stagnant. Like there's
right.
always something you can attain. And so being that I was doing that, like one of the things I noticed and I can admit, like I was known for going from 0 to 60. Like I had an anger issue. My anger didn't come from the relationship, but just things that I had encountered and what I had grown up with. And so I was like, in therapy dealing like with that because as I stated, I left my job for my son, but quite
Hmm.
honestly, I was just going through it.
Hmm.
Like that career was like tearing me down left and right. And so it was a great recipe for when I entered into my relationship. Like I had someone I thought I could, confide in and talk about. And so it made sense to let this job go because, this was my stressor. But as I was married, and it was like, okay, something's going here. Either it's me and I need to work on myself, or I need to like pinpoint where we can. So the journaling, therapy, that was significant enough for me to figure out, okay, what goals can I work and achieve? And when I started realizing, like, hey, it really isn't you, because you can reach out and talk to friends forever. But what I've recognized later in life, a lot of times I have gone through things before anyone else.
Mhm.
And because I'm one of those people that I don't sugarcoat it, I don't hide it. Now, I'm not out on Facebook blasting anything or Instagram or anything like
Mhm.
that. But in conversations, I am going to talk to you about, hey, this is what I'm going through,
Mhm.
and this is how I'm dealing. And I never could figure out why people didn't want to discuss it.
Mhm.
And then I realized, when you don't want to talk about something, do you really want a solution? Because if you are comfortable enough to keep sweeping stuff under the rug, it's going to build up. And at some point, something's got to give, right?
Mhm.
But at the heart of it, like I said, for me, it was really about my son. Like, I grew up seeing my parents fight, and it was hard, and, my dad is no longer here, so I don't have that piece of it. And my mom, I looked at how much it really harmed her.
Mhm.
So I knew how much I wanted to be healthy. I didn't want to end up how some people, like, people get bitter. I didn't want to be bitter. I wanted
Yeah.
to be better and receptive, so that, hey, cuz hey, I'm open. Like, I don't think that my chapter ended there. I just think it's just, who's that next person that is going to come in my life, and, you know, I had to learn something. And
Mhm.
so those things,
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered that.
No, no, you absolutely did. Therapy and journaling really help you see things clearly. And I remember I still have my journal where I'm talking openly about how upset I was and how unloved I felt, how alone I felt. And every once in a while, I'll open that up.
Okay.
And this was late 2020, 2021. And when I look back at that girl, and it's just like she was holding on to dear life to something that was already gone. And you just through the entries, you saw the progression, and then you also saw the time where it became
And a pattern.
yeah, the pattern, and then you also saw the moment where I was like, "I need an exit strategy. I'm done."
Look,
You know
to
what I
get off the
mean?
pot.
Yeah, no, seriously. And it's crazy too because like I'll have to show it to you sometime cuz it literally is like that's it, I'm done. I'm asking for a divorce. This was the day I went and talked to an attorney. This is what they told me. Here are the 10 things I need to get done before I even ask this asshole, not even ask, tell.
God, I wasn't ready.
Man, clearly I still feel some type of way about it. It had to be like I'm not even asking, I'm telling him. This is done.
Right.
We're over and done with, and it's really interesting how between that and therapy, it helped me be okay with the decision that I was about to make.
Right.
And
Cause
there
it's
was
scary.
no it is, and there is no going back,
Look, I ain't have a job yet, you know what I'm saying? And I got this child, and I got a
Mhm.
house,
Yeah.
like, but I had to be like, if there was ever a time, cause, me and God got this relationship where I'd be like, bro, what is you doing? Like, why am I going through this? Like, I'm praying to you. I'm
Yep.
doing
Why
everything you ask.
I always your strongest warrior. Let's talk
Right.
about it.
Look, I want to be a soft. Look, I kept telling friends, I said, I just want to be a soft girl. I want to be so soft. Like, I
Mhm.
ain't even front. Like, open my door. Like, I do come from the South. So, like, I want that chivalry. I want to sit back and, deal with that. But, like, yeah, bro, like, I'm strong. Like, I know I'm strong. I don't need to bench no more weight. I need this removed from myself because, like you said, with the journaling, I too have mine. I actually found a journal entry, and I was like, you would have thought I was writing it in the as in the future. And I was like, why are you doing this? Because those that know, like I said, I'm out here advocating and doing it. It's like, I won't tolerate this from a friend.
Mhm.
Why am I going to tolerate this in this role right here? Like, how important is it to me? But but the spiritual factor of it is like, I just didn't want to go to hell. I want God to be like, well,
You
you
stand
didn't
in
work
it.
that out here. Because my grandparents, they're old school, like, they stayed married. Church does not believe in divorce. They're primitive Baptist. So
Mhm.
they were married up until they passed, right?
Wow.
But when you look at how things are navigated, they had separate bedrooms though, right? So when you see those things growing up, but then, the other people in my life and my family I see they're married, the biggest thing I saw was like the less people knew about your business.
Mhm.
However, I always felt like within my cousins, because my girl cousins, we all got our career and then we all at
Mhm.
least have one or two kids.
Yeah.
And we did it later because
Mhm.
we got established. For those that are still married, I still will like ask some question like, what does she do? But I also feel like they may have courted a little bit better or have a better way of communication. Somewhere
Mhm.
in there, they figured out. But at the end of the day, what I don't accept is that it was my fault. I don't accept that because I am a problem solver by nature. So, like, if
Mhm.
we got an issue, you and I as friends, if you got a problem, we gonna sit down, we gonna figure out, okay, can this be worked out? If
Yep.
it can't be worked out, we can be amicable and move on. But at first, I'm gonna sit down and say, hey, let's have a conversation so we can
Mhm.
see where the disconnect is at, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But when you realize that that conversation is not gonna bring you any resolution anymore, and how much of myself do I want to keep losing? Like,
Mm.
I look like this very you know, enforceable black woman. Like I'm podcasting, I'm out here,
Mhm.
all the way up here at the Capitol. I know all these different city officials. Like I'm in all these different rooms and spaces and stuff. And here I am, somebody's mom, but when it came down to the relationship, I was struggling.
Mhm.
And but that the journaling, and I wanted to admit I also knit. So having a hobby,
Mm.
walking, all of those were what places that I could have self-reflection and really
Mhm.
like dive into where I want. Cause when I go out for a walk, I'll come back and be like, okay, I'm picking one thing that we're gonna discuss. So
Mhm.
maybe we can do it. But when I realized, as you said to your point, that I was like, this is it. And that night it wasn't hard. It was like fine, like, cause I had been praying for a while, like, God, if I need to be released from this,
Mhm.
it ain't gonna be no denying, right? And when it was released and I could move on, and then the next day call an attorney and
Yep.
get it rolling like that and be
Mhm.
the first one to file, like, I was like, I knew I was done, and there was no conversation, there was no tear shed, you know, please get your things and let's figure out how we're gonna navigate with our kid.
Yeah.
And because they're pretty private, like I said, I'm happy this conversation's way. Like I did not want it to be like I'm bashing, but from my experience
Yes.
it was just hard because I had to navigate finding a job and then I got one.
Mhm.
And then, 2 days into the 6-month probation, it was, oh, we have to let you go. So I'm like, okay. Then
Mm.
the next why I said I don't want to be strong, my cousin passes away. And
Mhm.
I was just like, really? And it's tons of other things, but these things were just like piling up.
Yeah.
But the main thing I had kept saying was like, God, I don't even have time to have a nervous breakdown. Like
No,
I'm
see.
trying to juggle a divorce. I'm trying to do
Yeah.
this career. I'm still trying to be mom. I'm trying to be in my public official role. Like,
Yeah.
and that comes with its stuff. And then I'm volunteering. I was like, I had no time for me. Like,
None.
I'm glad that the weight came off. I'm glad that my hair didn't completely fall out.
Mhm.
But there was no time for me. But in that time, I attracted the friend group that I needed.
Mhm.
I attracted the support that I needed. And I finally got to like you know, to some people. Like I didn't even care no more. Like I don't have time. And so it built that, but the most important thing to me to keep saying is it brought back my boundaries. It gave me like
Mhm.
I will not let my boundaries be crossed again.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna be a little bit more careful. That doesn't mean I'm gonna be perfect at it, but
Mhm.
whatever happens in my life from here, like those boundaries need to be respected because I'm gonna respect yours.
Yep, exactly. This is kind of how I felt because when said I was going to do the divorce, my initial thing was, I need to live in the house. We were already in separate rooms, so that wasn't the problem. But it was my father that was like, "Absolutely not. You are not staying in that house." As a matter of fact, my dad, because I'll never forget this. I was sitting
Go
with my
dad. I
parents. Oh
like
yeah,
this.
let me tell you something. The number one thing Larry and Doretha Johnson don't do is play about me. So I was sitting there
Okay.
with my mom, and I'm like, "How am I going to afford an apartment? I don't have any money. I have this house. I have all of this." And my dad was like, "No, shut up. First of all,
Right.
you're going to get you a storage locker. You're gonna start going through your stuff, putting stuff in the storage locker, and then you will be in this residence in 2 weeks. That's it. That's all. We will
Okay.
figure it out from there. But you not staying in that house with that man because people get desperate and you don't know what he's capable of. And I'm just like, well, Dad, my dad's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Don't know what
You
people are
don't know.
capable
Nope.
when they're angry
Yep.
and
And
when
when they see
when
the
that
end of something, I had to remember it took me 2 years to process and do what I did. For
mhm.
him, everything over that 2-year period was fine.
So
So
we had no clue.
he act like he didn't have any clue. But
Well, you know
listen,
what? As they say, the biggest thing I used to always tell my friends, what you tolerate is kind of, I'm not saying you deserve it, but the more you tolerate from someone, the more that person thinks is okay. So when you're clear about like, look, I really don't want you to wear shoes in my house.
yeah.
And now I should say to me, like, that may not be the best, but the more that you're saying, hey, this is something I'm not accepting, and then that person comes to know it. Like, I'll use something as simple as wearing lipstick.
Mhm.
That became an issue. And I'm
Mm.
just like, but I
Mm.
was met wearing makeup. We're in that. Now, I ain't gonna go there. But uh the thing of it is like when you're finding yourself someone is trying to now change who you are, like that is a big thing. But I love that your parents did it. My mom and some other people I would love to just they know who they are. Like I was sitting here like, but what if I want to get some Starbucks or I want to take my son to do this? And they was like, don't you worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
you worry about it.
seriously. Yeah.
People showed up, helped me move furniture out, like
Yep. Yep.
read,
Same.
do stuff. I wanna have I didn't like going through my holiday, like that was oh my gosh. My first Thanksgiving with no kid was like, oh my gosh, but it gave me other people who could love on me and I was allowed to receive it. Like I wasn't sad. So when
Yeah.
you have that, there's that. But for the women that don't, man, it makes you feel like, okay, hey, I'm trapped, I can't go. But the silver
Mhm.
lining I would like for our show to say is do it. Like if you know in your heart of hearts, you pray, meditate, whatever it is that you believe in, because I do believe when you do things with intention, it
Mhm.
comes out. If you say,
Mhm.
this is what I want to do, and you write it down and you focus on it, it will happen for you. You
Mhm.
just have to be willing to put yourself out there. So get that storage locker. Let
Yeah.
mom and dad help you,
Yep.
or those people that want to. Like, I was like you, like, well, how am I going to pay for this mortgage? How am I going to get health insurance? How am I, like, all the
Mhm.
stuff started coming. And the more it kept saying, like, it didn't matter. And it has worked itself out. Not saying
Mhm.
it hasn't had its challenges,
Mhm.
but I'm still here. I'm still
You
healthy.
know what? Still here part is so important because I had let myself believe that I couldn't leave
Mm,
because of my finances, because of who else am I going to find that's going to tolerate me and all this other really dumb stuff
hey.
that it took me 2 years of therapy and to talk
Mhm.
about all of these things to be like, "I'm sorry, but who do you know who you are? Like, do you know all
'Cause
of
you
the
be writing the heck
things?"
out of a bio. I'm just saying, y'all, when she sent me this list, now the first conversation, we were really gonna get into like my identity as a person. But as you and I had talked about,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
girl, maybe we need to talk about the divorce. But oh my God, you wrote that up. I said, man, she knows she need to be out here freelance writing for somebody. And you're in a perfect space to, podcast
yeah.
that organization skills. But yeah, like you have to really have that whole like
Whole
Kermit self talk to
conversation.
yourself, like
Yeah,
like
it's just like,
girl,
"Girl, what?" Like, "No,
in
no,
the
no,
in the
no."
mirror,
Yeah,
like you
seriously.
were who you were before you got in here. It's just that you forgot who you were, and
Because
then
you
you
were
had to be
so
reminded.
focused. Yes,
Yep.
and I was so focused on him and his happiness and what he wanted and what he needed, I forgot to even talk to my own damn self.
But
So
society teaches us that, right? I mean, I remember I'll just use this one example. I remember being at church and he spoke to everybody and said goodbye. And so out loud I was like, you ain't gonna even say anything to me. And then one of the pastors was like, well, you should go up there. That's your husband. You should walk up there. And I was like, did you not see what I just said? So we're rewarding that behavior and that stigma of that. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a manly man. I love a guy that can be in leadership, but there is a fine line in being a leader and then trying to be a dictator
Yes.
or trying to see what someone will tolerate and accept versus are you know, I as a leader myself,
Mhm.
I believe you lead with someone. You don't lead them and say, "Hey, I'm the head," and
Exactly.
all that stuff. But we've been fed that so much that it's biblically there, but when you really go in the Bible, there are women leaders in there as well, right?
Exactly. And they're yeah.
And
Yeah,
there's partnerships, you
ex
know?
and that's really what it was at the end of the day, and then also too, I really realized that I had allowed myself to be put into a caretaker role as opposed to
Girl,
being a
oh my
partner.
God. That's a whole 'nother
So,
subject. You
girl,
the
listen,
adult in
because
a
and it's
relationship.
funny because I think about the relationship and I think about everything, and the thing is that my mother and father are a partnership, and now that I am where I am in life, I always thought that, well, my mom takes care of everything. And, she's this and that. Yeah, my dad takes care of stuff, but at the same time, like my mom, she buys my dad's clothes. She makes sure he got clean drawers. Like she makes sure
Right.
everything, but not recognizing and really identifying how my mother supports my father, but also how my father supports my mother. And because I was only seeing the view of what my mother does, I put all those same
Mm,
expectations on me, but I didn't put the expectations of how my father treats my mother on my husband.
that's deep.
That when I look at my parents' marriage now, and they've been together for 45 years, I'm like, that was a partnership. Because
Yes.
when one needed to be picked up, the other one was strong and vice versa,
Right.
and it was never, "Well, you have to do
Mm,
this for
I
me."
I go out here and work every day, so you take care of all this stuff because that was the biggest thing for me is like, as a stay-at-home mom, when I say I did a lot of things that one of my girlfriends, she's still that's still married. We that phrase being married and a single mom at the same time. And that kind of hurt, it cut. I was like, maybe it's because again, remember I'm telling you I'm in these stay-at-home mom groups. I'm watching how they're navigating and asking them questions that they're, willing to share. And I'm seeing the disconnect in myself. And because at first I was like, man, I guess everybody's stuff is just dysfunctional, right? But the reality is like, it's the how are you balancing? Like, what things do you
Yes.
see that the other partner is doing that they're doing, and then where they're meeting in the middle? Because
Yes.
for me, I'm a fairness of fallacy. Like, I really want stuff to be balanced. And if you're gonna
Mhm.
make it transactional, I want it as a balance. I'm trying to, get there. But I had to learn that, some days I'm probably giving 100% and that person's getting zero. And then it might be the flip, or some days
Mhm.
this person's giving 60 and I'm giving 40. But if it's always like unlevel, that's where the resentments come in. That's where the discord comes in. That's where the disconnect comes in. A lot of times I used to think, well, maybe one day I'm gonna be this relationship expert because I understand so much more people. I understand so much more about myself, and you sitting back and realize, but you can ask a person all the questions in the world. You can court as much as you want. It still kind of comes down to what are you willing to tolerate?
Yes.
What do you really want that's going to make you happy? Because if you're just in it because you want that title, as an I's married now, or that's my husband,
That's my
everything had to have
husband.
had your little ring out,
Yeah.
if that's the only thing you're looking at, you're not looking at, okay, hey, when I'm on like I got an illness, colonoscopy, is that
Mm.
person
Yeah.
there when you wake up,
Mhm.
in childbirth? Are you going to choose me or this baby? Because,
Yep.
we can make another baby, but it can't be another me. Like, those are those questions,
Right. Right.
And even with like I mentioned, my grandparents, my granny, she had dementia and it turned into Alzheimer's. And to see my grandparents later at this elderly age, like when she passed away, my granddad was hurt. And I was like, that shows that no matter what it might look to me on the outside, there was still a genuine love there.
Mhm.
And it's still, looking out. But they were willing to stay in that,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Whereas other people have been like, nope, I can't put up with staying in a separate bedroom, or we don't talk, we don't go on a date, we don't do this.
Mhm.
You just gotta pick there.
That's incredibly important. We've been fed the idea instead of led to understand the true mechanics of how marriages work and how people can essentially coexist in that space. And it's not to say that we won't ever figure it out or that we won't ever find someone where we could cohabitate and do all of those things with. It just so happened that the people that we chose initially weren't the one. And that's okay. No shade, no tea, no nothing like that. And you really you move on. But I think that moving on, it's a process. And when we're given the time to stop and reflect and heal before we make those decisions, we fare better. I know since my divorce, I've said, had it not been for my divorce and for me leaving my ex-husband, I wouldn't have went to grad school. I
Hmm.
wouldn't have changed careers.
Okay.
I for damn sure wouldn't have started this podcast because no, I wouldn't have. Because I was with someone that didn't believe in me.
Mm,
And because he didn't believe in me, I didn't believe in myself. And I hung up so much of my identity on that person. But now that I'm in a space where I am the one that believes in me and I rely on myself, then it was just like, again, like when I decided to start this podcast, when I decided to go to grad school, it was, well, why not me? Why can't I do those things?
I'm sitting here like, but the belief in you, like, my biggest point was I had campaigned, and
Mm,
I remember at that time saying, "Is there anything that I need to know?" Because you know how you see people
mhm,
having like smear campaigns or whatever. Because but something said I need to ask, right? So I never asked permission because I realized that as an adult, why am I asking another adult? Can I have your permission to go do this? But back to why I say, that church alignment, like there's so much of that toxicity
mhm,
thinking out there that, women are supposed to be at this bottom. But let's
mhm.
face it, black women be making moves. We are always the ones that when something is in dire, here they come.
Yep,
What we gonna do? And
yep.
it's like you asking the person why because and I like Trevor Noah, but he's like, when black women I did a thing against him. He had his whole little speech about black women and like where you need to listen up. And I feel like society tries to demonize us at the same time, but then always want us our help. But that belief, like, I heard people say, when a black woman tell you you look good, like you believe it, right?
Yeah, yep.
We just have that ability to encourage just as much as we
Mhm.
have to undermine it. But how we move, no matter where we're from, makes a difference. But girl, look at you podcast,
Listen,
grad chapter,
listen, and you're absolutely right because yeah, I could definitely hype up other people, but it was that I was never really hyping up myself. And I remember when I left and when I sold the house and I moved out and I was completely on my own and the divorce was done and everything like that, it was really like me taking a step back and being like, okay, cool. What is it that I can do? What is it that I want? And that's
mm,
when, the grad school came. That's when the podcast came. And even I was in a relationship right after I signed my divorce papers. And even when that ended, it was like, no, 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 Emily, like you're really on your own now. So, and that had my own, sliding down the wall, crying, punching the air moments
look,
where I was like, oh, like I'm really by myself. No, seriously, like what am I supposed to be doing? And now going through all of that over the last 3 years and seeing where I am now, again, I'm not 100% to the life that I want for myself, but I'm a lot
okay.
closer now than I
Mhm.
was back.
But you kept moving forward.
And listen, keep
Look,
going.
my biggest thing was to myself was like every time it was the day a year ago, I was like, a year from now, I won't be in the same headspace.
Mhm.
A year from now, this is it. And when I tell you, saying that a year ago to see where I'm at now, like I brought in a top vote after campaigning
Mhm.
twice. I had some friendships that, had to disappear.
Mhm.
They stung a little bit, but when I looked at it, I was like, was that relationship really for you?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and I still believe in that season, reason, or a lifetime.
Mhm.
Some things are meant to come and teach us. So you had to go through those things to find out where you are now. But I feel like it's such a disservice to ask us when we're younger, what do you want to be?
Yeah.
Versus us getting around and experiencing it, getting to
Mhm.
say, from an engineer's perspective, my college at the time only did computer science, but
Mhm.
there's computer engineering, graphic design,
Mhm.
all those things, but there's so much more, you know, to
Mhm.
explore that in this economy, like podcasting, like that took off so much in 2020, and I listened to so many of them, but they were always my favorite because it gave me a way to explore information as I was walking. Because I obviously like to talk. So sometimes I can't talk to people because they're at work, right?
Yeah.
So to have that conversation coming through and having a different idea or
Mhm.
a way to expound, it helped, you know.
Yes.
But you never know what you're made up of, I think, until you do go through something,
Mhm.
some adversity.
Yes.
You don't know what you're made of. And quite honestly, anger helps you see a whole lot of stuff clearly. Like you find out who that person is when they're angry. Like a person can only hide who they are for so
For
long.
so long. Mhm.
And the most interesting I found out, I don't know if you ever heard this, is that when someone is being emotionally abusive, that
Mm.
is also domestic violence.
It is. 100%.
I did not think of it that way. And I thought, man, you know, that's deep. Like when you realize how much you have allowed, I keep feel
Mhm.
like I just talk circles, but the things that you allow are the things that you have to decide, do I want this for myself? And it's never too late. Like if
Yeah.
tomorrow's gonna be my last day on earth, hey, I made a decision, I've moved forward. And as long as you keep doing that,
Mhm.
we'll be on here on Emily's Black Girl Iowa podcast, you know.
Talking
And
about
the
all the
funny part,
things.
look, the funny part is I kept thinking I should make a podcast called Divorce After Dark. I ain't know, dim the lights and be like, let's talk about the dark stuff.
No,
You know,
seriously. Yep.
what are you going through? But I didn't wanna just be on the air just, you know,
Just
saying
talking.
things,
Yeah.
and ultimately I don't want to, because I don't know what his experience was to be married to me. I think and know that I'm a great person,
Mhm.
but that may not have been his experience with me, so it's like, I am very good about balancing that, right? Like,
Mhm.
even listening to you, I'm not saying I disagree with what you went through,
Mhm.
but 2 people experiencing things differently, and I do think in our society that men just get to do it differently. Like
Mhm.
they get paid more
Mhm.
because they're the breadwinner.
Mhm.
There's more leniency. Like when you find out men now can get paternity leave, but
Mhm.
you're the one. When I had a baby, I had to take vacation.
Mm.
I didn't get this, 6
Yeah.
weeks of maternity. It was a vacation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
make that make sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, and then I wanna wrap up. But
Okay.
when I was going through my divorce, or when I said, like, after I moved out, I was actually working at Iowa State, and I was doing their inaugural admitted student day event. So the event was 2 weeks later after I moved out. And
Mm,
I decided, I was like, I'm not gonna say anything to my supervisor until, I know for sure that this is the path, and I'm gonna move in with my parents and things like that. So I finally went and I told them, and I sat them down and I said, hey, this is what's going on in my personal life, gave them the reassurance that, well, this is going on in my personal life. This is not going to affect, my work ethic. I know what the product, I know, what we have at stake and all of these different things. And the response that I got was great, but at the same time, it wasn't I'm sorry you're going through this. It was, I'm sorry you're going through this right now when we have this big event coming up that you're in charge of.
yeah, it's business.
And on the inverse for my ex-husband, because we did end up talking about this before I cut communication with him, he said, "You know what? Everyone's just been really supportive, and they donated days so I can take time to." And I'm like, "What the hell?" Like the emotional torment that I had to go through over the last 2 years to even get through this. But no, I'm
Look,
the big bad wolf that asked you for a
God,
divorce, and you
God,
pop
bro,
off. What?
God, really, dude? Real? That's what
Okay,
we doing? My God, I wasn't expecting that. Are you serious?
I am serious, and I'm just like, okay, fine, whatever. Just
My
be
God,
over here being a bad bitch while everybody is pitying you for that mean black lady to have the audacity to divorce you.
I
I
know
was,
we talked about this could be an hour or 2 hour conversation,
yeah,
which we'll have this off the air.
yeah,
But that is very audacious. But
mm-hmm.
I thought telling my former job that would also kind of lean some sympathy, but girl, no. It's almost
Sympathy for
like
me.
it's like how dare you want something better for yourself? Meanwhile,
Mhm.
the supervisor at the time was remarried. You know, like,
Yeah.
so you obviously have been
Mhm.
through this because, like, I had to go to mediation
Yeah,
on vacation. You know what I'm saying?
man.
And the toll they took on me that day, I'm so glad that I didn't go back to work that day because you're literally with your attorney and
Mhm.
they're somewhere else with their attorney and you're
Yep.
having to go back and forth.
Back and forth with the
And that
mediator.
and
Yep.
what you did talking about the money, I was like, I gotta pay what? To just get you to agree to some terms so this can be done. But we said prior to this how we're gonna be civil, we're gonna be amicable, because there was some stuff, like I said, I could say offline that I had to really have a come to Jesus moment. But those who know, and that support system goes so much way. Like, people don't understand it until they're going through it. A lot of people
Right.
can give you the, it'll be okay, pick
Right.
yourself up. And it's like, you're not walking in these shoes right
No.
now.
No.
You do not have the same thing. And I'm already someone that's gonna overthink. The engineer in me is already calculating, okay, like you said, this is not a linear experience. I'm over here like, okay, AX plus B equals Z squared, and
Yep.
how am I gonna get over here and get to one? Like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
calculate this big formula because honestly, it's all these unknowns coming at me.
Yeah, and I also think too, the other thing that people don't really realize, especially when you're going through a divorce, life keeps going. Life does not stop. Life will continue to beat your ass
Girl,
despite the fact that you are fighting for your life to hold on to your retirement.
you swimming up, what is
You
it? I
know,
like that poem. Swimming upstream
yep,
in the
against the
rain.
listen, and
That is
no
just
floaties, no life
nothing.
jacket. You just
No,
you just out there just trying to literally keep your head above water. Again, with my experience, what that really showed me too was just like what you said, my support system was very important and my support system was not at work. It was
but
not with
look, let you know.
nan
Look,
person at my job. And
that
I'm
was the
fine with that.
information you needed,
Yep, and it
girl.
was actually really funny because even, like, towards the when I was divorced, and I remember that following spring, I had seen a coworker. I went to my office, seen a coworker that I hadn't seen in a long time because they were a remote coworker, and so he came into the office and he said, "Oh, hey, Emily, how's it going?" Da, 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 and I was like, "Oh, it's going good." We're just talking, 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 and, there was another girl at my job that had my same name. She's white. And she said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I got a couple of emails now that you changed your last name." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, just forward them to me, no problem," because people were getting confused, no problem. And he said, "What do you mean you changed your last name?" And I said, "I went through a divorce." My God, I had no idea, and I had talked to so and so. I didn't know, I didn't know, I didn't know. And I'm like, I'm not expecting people to, like, tell my business or anything like that. Like, that's
Right.
totally fine. But again, my support system wasn't there because surely at some point someone probably would have been like, "Hey, did you know Emily was getting a divorce?" Because you know how people like to talk at work. What nobody talking about me, what nobody checking for me, nobody knew about my divorce, which in a way is a good thing, but at the same time, I was still getting hit with a lot of things that were really hard to work through, and I never got the grace of, "Yo, pump the
You
brakes.
going through
Homegirl is
something
going through a
personal.
whole divorce.
It's
Maybe
like
we
people when they
shouldn't
have
be."
cancer.
Yeah,
I
it's
got
like pe
cancer over here. I'm dying, but
yeah.
can you still get this thing done? That's why there's this quote that I love that says that, your job will post your job quicker than your obituary.
Yep,
If you die,
yep,
right? So in other words, get out there and live your life, experience
mhm,
your joy.
yep,
Tomorrow, today, the next hour is not guaranteed. Keep going forward because you don't know what's happening out there. Like, um, I didn't have to experience it from that way, but I was a little embarrassed. Like, are people gonna notice I don't have my wedding band anymore? Is somebody gonna ask me? Like, there's still bios out there. There's a whole freaking newspaper article
yeah, yeah,
um with the photo that wasn't the picture I would have chose, but hey, that's what the media did, and
mhm,
that's forever, memorialized. But the thing of it is that that was who I was 2 years ago. That is not who I am now.
mhm,
That, this person going forward, I always have my smile. Like,
yeah,
I believe in, I look in the mirror and I tell Leah I love her all the time because at the end of the day, I gotta love me before someone else is gonna love me. If I'm not showing me love, how is someone else supposed to show me love, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it does start there, like that self-esteem, that confidence, that reminder, like you go out there and get that grad degree. But I hope that you've had the time to like have a decompress and
Mhm.
to pause because jumping into doing something else more stressful, because I think, like you say, birth, marriage, divorce, buying a house, buying a car, them are some stressful events
Yep.
in your life, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's a heart attack.
Mhm.
You don't realize how much, like, I think I felt so much pressure here, and it was like I couldn't really talk to everybody about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I couldn't go to certain people. And there were people who they wanted to know, but it was to be nosy. And I'm sure there's people out there laughing now, and I don't care because
Mhm.
you don't know what life is going to hand you. Today, your
Mhm.
life is great,
Yeah,
but
but
there might be
tomorrow,
something.
when that curveball comes, it's no stop. It's not gonna, oh, okay, it's not gonna reschedule itself. It's not gonna do
Mm-mm.
nothing like that. It doesn't care. When that curveball hits, it's going to hit and you have to deal with it one way or the other. As we end our conversation, I do have one question though that I want to ask. And I want you know what and I think we can we've probably already kind of talked about this a little bit. Thinking back to when you were in the thick of it, when you were literally in the fight, when you were swimming upstream, what is one thing you wish someone would have said to you for that reassurance that everything is okay? And that same thing, like, would you share that same piece of information with someone currently going through the thick of it?
Well, I kind of hit on one of them,
Mhm.
that I love my cousin for telling me that I had to treat this thing as a death. And because of treating it as a death, that meant there was a closure. Like, this chapter is closed. I wish someone could have gave me the biggest hug in the world. I like hugs and kisses too, but the biggest hug, because that embrace of comfort to know that everything was going to be okay and I got you. So, and that doesn't mean I got you when it's convenient for me, but I got you no matter what. And, the friend that she came to my house the night that, you know, it was it. It was a
Mhm.
done deal. And her just sitting there with me
Mm.
to 3 o'clock in the morning just so I could be calm enough to go to sleep. Another girlfriend, just sometimes it was just that someone to just sit with me and let me just get everything I needed out my system, to have the reassurance to, for example, I used to get told I was being masculine. And I used to think, how, when I'm speaking up, how am I being masculine? But having someone to come back like, no, like giving me the things that I knew and giving that reassurance that, hey, one, I ain't crazy. Two, I am doing what's right and I'm doing what is necessary for myself. And I am grateful. Like I said, my father's not here, but my mother, like, she really got in there. And I may not want to hear her talk about my dad, but the fact that her being able to be available and just listen and offer that's been the biggest thing. But I wish someone would have just told me, hey, you will be okay. It hurts now and you're gonna get through this, but the fact that you're just keep moving forward. No matter what you're doing, don't sit here and second guess it, just keep going forward. Has been the best thing, because when you start looking at, should I have done that? And you start questioning, like, was this the right choice? Because staying with someone because you want insurance, you want income, you don't necessarily want to go clock in a job, like, was it really worth it? It's no different than, and Imma preface this, like, don't nobody come for me, but it's no different than being upset with a woman that might choose to go strip so she could pay to go to college. Like,
Mhm.
stop demonizing people for how they're trying to get there when society is not making it easy.
Yeah.
And I wish it was more support groups. I
Yeah.
wish there was and ironically, I did have some friends going through a divorce at the time,
Mhm.
as well as I was able to help some friends as they
Mhm.
start trying to navigate divorce.
Mhm.
So I have been that person that gets to say, "Mm-mm, this is how you fight. This is what you need to say. You need to know clearly what you want. Here's, how to go about this. This is who you need to pursue, and just stick to it and being that, sounding board. Like, does this make sense? Even for me being able to line up my custodial days in sync with one of my friends so that we have a certain day of the week that we can always hang out
Mhm.
type thing. And
Yeah.
we're able to have vacations and stuff and do holidays together, and that helps. So
Mhm. Yeah, having someone there to listen is such an important part of going through the process and having that support system. It sounds like me and you definitely we had those people. I remember one of my friends, I she had came and visited me and my ex-husband and saw one of our really bad arguments. And it got her emotional. And I remember just always feeling so bad about that. And so, fast forward 5 years and, I'm getting ready to leave. And I remember sitting down and telling her at her house, and the first thing she said to me was, "Girl, we was just waiting on you to leave him. We knew he wasn't good." And I'm like,
Don't that make you mad? Why is we supposed to look, as we're supposed to wrap it up, one of my girlfriends did that. She's my sis, and she was like, because she goes, I am so sorry. She said, the day that you asked me, was you making the right decision? She said, I so regret. Then I didn't say nothing. I'm on the other line of the phone, like, so I asked you because that was
"Yeah,
me trying to see if I'm doing the right thing or not.
right, right.
'Cause I had these reservations, but ultimately all along was I wanted to do things the biblical way. I wanted to be married. I want to bring forth a child
Yeah,
in marriage.
yeah.
But now to see society don't even care no more. You can have a kid out of wedlock. You
Listen."
can go and have a kid without having an actual partner. Like
Mhm.
nobody says nothing because society's different. But the society I grew up in,
Exactly. It
me
it
sitting
made
here with my
sense.
hair twisted, you know what I'm saying? Like you gonna be on camera with your hair twisted,
Yeah,
or you're not gonna straighten your hair, or um, you gonna have that dark lipstick on. Like the society I came up in, it was all these pre rules and judgments
mhm.
that you follow, and now people really got that they don't give the.
Nope.
And I'm like, where was this? Like,
Yeah,
so as a Gen Xer, I low key am a little bit envious of whatever generation we're gonna say, is it the millennials who's doing it? But the fact that y'all are in touch with y'all's feelings,
yeah,
and Gen Xers, like, we grew up in, I feel like I grew up in a war zone. Like, you really had to figure things out
yeah.
so much that you're so hyper independent,
Mhm.
But anyway,
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, and I remember when I asked her, I was like, "Girl, why didn't you say that? Like, girl, you was in my wedding. Like, what
people be thinking
is
they
going
doing
on?"
you a service,
And
or
she
like
and
they saw
she
something,
she
yeah, and they don't want
said
to tell you,
right, and
yeah.
she said, "Emily, if I would have told you that after I watched that argument, if I would have told you that on your wedding day, you still would have married that man. You weren't ready to hear it." And I'm like, "I mean, you're right. At the same time, I can't be mad at you, but just know I'm leaving this man and I need your support."
Well,
You
here's
know?
the thing: you are not like my maid of honor. My God. She now for someone that was like, "Hey, you want to cut ways?" because she was seeing stuff and we were having conversations. So I had that girl, but I was not gonna be a runaway bride, right?
Yeah.
And but because I kind of just attribute, okay, this is cold feet, right?
Mhm.
And but if she gave the most eloquent speech, so you would never know, right? Now that I'm just saying it.
Mhm.
However, none of us know what can be, because you could jump into something
Mhm.
and everything looks bad, but once you get going, it's okay. It's kind of like when you meet someone new, you're going through like that whole awkward, like you don't want to say the
Mhm.
wrong things. And am I coming across this way? Is my body language saying that, hey, I'm open,
Mhm.
but maybe I'm just a little awkwardly shy because I'm new to this, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but you're going to go through that. And then as your comfort level come or stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the whole message I hope is coming clear through our whole conversation is be yourself.
Yes.
Make sure you're honoring your values, and take the time out to say that, hey, what is it I want going forward?
Mhm.
And going forward, like you went to grad school. I want someone that supports my endeavors.
Yeah.
So if I were to say I'm going to announce that I'm running for, a house representative, I ain't saying that. But if I were, I want that person like, okay, how are we gonna do this?
Like,
What you
what's
need?
the next step?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you want to discuss your campaign? Like, I want to
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know what else, but just
Mhm.
show me you're gonna support. Like, how
Exactly.
are you gonna do that? How are you showing up? Because I hated seeing a lot of women in my life, like, their careers stopped at a certain point. My own mentor, she could have been like the top engineer as a Black woman, like
Mhm.
senior exec, but did not get that support from her
Mm.
spouse.
Mm.
And I thought that's crushing. Like, we can be so far ahead and not just be the first one to do it, but that support. comes a long way. Like, you got to have a balance. Like, if I'm
Yeah.
moving from my career and I'm elevating this way, okay, next time is yours. But it shouldn't just be me watching you increase. But here's the deal, Emily.
Yeah.
No matter, like, being a stay-at-home mom, why I wanted to go back to that identity, I felt so lost
Mhm.
that that's all I could be was a housewife. And I actually had someone tell me, "Well, you're no longer an engineer." And I'm like, "You can't take
You
my
don't
education away from me."
no, no, no,
Because
no.
as I go out on these Black Iowa outdoor hikes and stuff, like, I'm always, like, telling them the stuff that I know and
Yeah.
remembering, but it's remembering that you are still who you are at your core, and really grappling with what is it, like I said, overall, what is it that you want going forward, and do it in a healing way. Because if you ain't ready, don't go trying to be around anybody else, because it will come out in some kind of ways, and there's no comparison. That person
Mhm.
you were with and who you were is gone. The person who you are now is different and has different expectations.
100%, 100%. Sometimes, I ask myself often about the girl that I was before my divorce, the girl that I was during my divorce, and the girl that I am now. And I like this version of myself a lot better. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm not necessarily like with that person anymore, but it has everything to do with the fact that I'm still here, and I've really been able to love on myself and support myself and just be okay. That's the biggest like difference. And but then again, that's growth. And that typically happens after divorce. So
Mhm.
Leah, thank you so much for this conversation. This was definitely needed. And there are definitely like different layers that we could have talked about. I mean, I had questions in here
I know,
about
I was a little scared.
about, encouragement and dating and trust and all that other stuff. But I think this conversation was perfect in the sense of talking about the experience and how you deal with it and how you handle it. So thank you again for being here today. And for everyone listening, if this episode spoke to you, I definitely encourage you to take a moment and reflect on your own journey. Where have you been? How have you healed, and the possibilities that lie ahead? And if you're in the middle of your own storm, I think the one thing that me and Leah can agree on, we want you guys to understand you are not alone. Healing takes time, but your future is still full of promise, regardless of what path you decide to take. So, just a reminder, you can listen to all previous episodes of this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Black Girl Iowa, and also shop exclusive merch and my journaling kits on my Etsy shop at Black Girl Iowa Shop. So until next time, keep telling your stories, keep building your community, and also keep shining right where you are. We'll see you on the next one.